Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and welcome to the first video in my deck collection series. There will be a total of 8 videos in this series because I have quite a few decks. I've grouped my decks together by theme so that the decks that you see in each video, both tarot and oracle, will be along the same artistic style or have a similar energy. That was the easiest way for me to keep things straight in terms of my filming because we will be taking a look at over 100 decks. Yes, I did cross that 100 mark a little while back, and I'm not sure if that's something I should be proud of or not. So this series is current as of March 2019, and as I do have more decks coming into my collection throughout this year in terms of Kickstarters and pre-orders and just making purchases off my wish list, I will probably be making some updates along the way as well. So we're going to start things off with one of my favorite themes in my collection, and that is my earthy decks. So these are the decks that have a very earthy vibe to them. A lot of them are very pagan inspired, focusing more on those earth-based practices, as well as some more modern decks that have a very earthy feel in terms of their art style and color palette, as well as how they read. So there are a total of 17 decks featured in this video, and you will find a complete list in the description below. As I said before, I've included both tarot and oracle in this video, but you will find all of the oracle decks at the end. So let's journey through the world of my earthy tarot and oracle decks. So here we have the Wildwood Tarot, and this is actually my second copy of this deck because I actually ruined my first copy doing a modification to it. So another video for another time, but everybody's seen this deck, so I'm not gonna, like, it's still in order. I'm not gonna go through it in too much detail, but this is one of those decks that I think you need to do a little bit of work with, and you need to read the book because everything is slightly different. It does have its own kind of system. Not to say that you can't read it based on your own understanding of tarot, because you certainly can actually, or read it totally intuitively. You definitely can, and I have done so many times, but there's a lot to be learned by working with this deck with the book, especially when it comes to like some of the quartz, because they are animals. And if you're not familiar with animal energy, which I'm really not big into animal energy, they can be a little bit challenging, but it's just, oh, such a gorgeous deck. It is definitely one of my favorite kind of earthy, pagan-y type decks. It's just so stunning. I love Will Worthington's artwork. Just beautiful. So there's the backs, and I will be attempting to do a modification on this one again as well, but as this is a new copy, it's still living in its original box. So that is the Wildwood Tarot. Next up we have the Druidcraft Tarot, and here is the backs. And this is a deck that I have shown many times on my channel. Sorry. It's a deck that, I've spoke about many times. I've trimmed it, obviously. I have yet to edge it. Still haven't gotten around to that yet. But I have been repainting the cards, which is, again, something I mentioned in my deck mod video. But this, for me, this is just like, a lot of people call this a workhorse deck, and for me, like, it totally is. It is such an easy reader, and it gives me really clear messages. This is like my really straight to the point, you know, tell it like it is deck. I guess I have a couple of those actually. Here's one of the cards I've repainted. I don't know if that'll pick up on camera, but I've added paint to it. Anyway, I'm working my way through the whole deck. Just, you know, just because, just for fun. Anyway, it's just, the artwork is stunning. It's, you know, I don't know what else to say about it. It is a solid, reliable tarot. It is the one that I can turn to and pull for just about any kind of reading, and I know it will always give me a clear answer. So definitely one of my favorites, definitely one of my workhorses, and a deck that I use quite often. So that is the Druidcraft Tarot. Next we have the Pagan Otherworlds. Beautiful back on this. It's again a deck I haven't edged yet, but I do intend to. And this is one of my favorite decks, and I've spoke about it often on my channel as well. It's just gorgeous. I don't know why some of them are upside down, because I don't read reversals. Probably should have checked that first. Anyway, it's a gorgeous deck. Seriously? Sorry. You know, it's definitely, yeah, as the title, it's very pagan inspired, and it's just, oh, the artwork is stunning. It's a great reader. I love doing readings with this deck. It's another one that just gives me really clear readings. It's a little bit pippish, which is kind of great. It's kind of a nice hybrid between those scenic minors and the pippish minors, because as you can see, they are very pippish, but there is a bit of a scene going on there. So yeah, so anyway, this is just it's just, oh, such a beautiful deck, really. I mean, what else can I say about it? It's beautiful, it's a great reader. It just, the color palette is just fabulous. It's very muted, very earthy. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to try to go a little bit faster because I have a lot of decks to get through this time. So that is the Pagan Otherworlds. Alright, up next we have the Darkness of Light Tarot, and this is an indie deck. I have edged it in black, and this is probably not a deck that most people would consider a really earthy deck, but to me it has a very earthy vibe. It's very substantial, very stable. It is very much Rider-Waite-Smith inspired, which is generally not my favorite, but I just, oh, I love this deck. The artwork is just phenomenal in it. So yeah, it just has a very earthy vibe to it, you know, to me. Very grounded. It gives very clear readings. This is the deck that, you know, when I do readings for family and friends, this is the deck that everybody almost always asks for. And this, I really just got this deck because I was like, oh, I don't have a really dark deck. Like, this is my favorite Chariot card ever. Love that. Anyway, and I love this Empress. How beautiful is she? It's a deck I got because I was like, oh, I need a darker deck in my collection for when I do readings for, you know, family and friends. So I got this, and I was not expecting to love it as much as I do. It is just like, it's solid, it's there, it's like the Druidcraft. It's just, it's a workhorse. It's always there, it's always dependable, and it's just gorgeous. So that is the Darkness of Light Tarot. Up next we have my very favorite, Anna Kay. This is a deck that I have spoke about many times on my channel. I've edged it in black. And this is a deck that, despite some of the kind of funny little faces, which I actually really have come to love about this deck. Their faces and their expressions are like my favorite things about this deck. There's a couple of them that don't, you know, really resonate, but whoops, it's a little bit glossy. This is the mass market edition. There is an indie edition, which I'd like to get, but just haven't gotten around to yet, because that's how much I love this deck. This one is my, you know, it's another workhorse deck. It's dependable, it's grounded. It's what I would consider a really earthy deck because it's very like practical, everyday, grounded in the earth type of, not only type of artwork, but type of readings. It's just a deck that really helps me ground and really helps me center, and it gives me really clear messages, and it's one, again, one that I can just turn to and know that I'm gonna get what I need. I'm gonna get the message that I need. May not be the message I want to hear, but I'm gonna get the message I need. So yeah, it's just one of my favorites, and I love the colors in it, love the artwork, love their funny little faces. Yep, just attached to it. Okay, so that is the Anna Kay. So next up we have the Vision Quest, and here's the backs, which is beautiful except for this copyright, and I might trim this down to the backs because I think the front would take it pretty well. This is a deck that I think is absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, it's still in order, so I have not actually done readings with this deck. I've only looked through it, and it is on my list of decks to dive deep into for 2019. Beautiful chaos card, love that. It's just, I don't know, it's just gorgeous. It's soft, but it's powerful. It's an interesting blend of strength and, you know, and softness. Sorry, I can't get my words out today. And I love that the minors are very pippish. That's just something I really enjoy. And you have the elemental associations for the minors, which I prefer as well. And it's just gorgeous. It's, like I said, it's soft, but it's strong. And I really cannot wait to find some time to work with this deck because I think it's going to be really great. But for now, I've just been enjoying really looking through it and taking in those gorgeous images because they are beautiful. So that is, whoops, a little slidey. That is the Vision Quest Tarot. Okay, up next we have a deck that I was so excited to find that it was being reprinted, and I just got it. This is my newest deck, and this is the Ancestral Path Tarot. The cards are really beautiful on the back, except for the copyright. Seriously, US Games, why do you keep doing that? I don't understand. Anyway, these cards are gigantic. I mean, like you can see, there's my hand. They are huge. Here is a regular card for comparison. Whoops, that'll help if I'm in the camera. So you can see they are very large, but I think that's really fabulous about this deck because look at how gorgeous these images are. So I've, of course, not read with it yet because I just caught it, but I have spent quite a bit of time just flipping through these images. And I so wanted to like a full flip through, but I won't because we have a lot of decks to get through. The Hierophant is beautiful. Justice is beautiful. Every card in this deck is stunning. I love the artwork. There is only one card that I wasn't thrilled with. Like, look at the moon, how beautiful. If I could get to it here. There it is. The only card I'm kind of like about is this world card, and only because when you compare it to the rest of the images, and certainly the rest of the majors, like these cards are so big I can't even do this one-handed. When you compare it to the rest of these gorgeous majors, I feel like the world is kind of just, I don't know, it's a little lacking. But that is my only complaint about this deck so far. Now, I just got it, so I have not done any readings with it, but I am super excited to work with this deck. It has been on my wish list for so long, and it was, you know, out of print for so long that it was just really expensive. So as soon as I saw that US Games had this back up, I jumped on it, like ordered it directly from their website, which I don't usually do because I usually wait till things hit Amazon because, you know, Prime. But I didn't even care. I just jumped on it. I wanted it right now, and oh, I'm just so excited to have it in my collection, you know, at long last. It's just, you know how when you get a deck that you've been wanting forever and you're just like, oh, like I want to hug it and squeeze it and just love on it all day. Anyway, so that is the Ancestral Path Tarot. I cannot tell you anything about how it reads because it just came into my collection, but I am super excited to have it because it is absolutely stunning and I cannot wait to work with it. So that is the Ancestral Path Tarot. And up next we have the Anima Mundi Tarot, which is an indie deck and has beautiful backs, gold gilding on the sides. And this is a deck that, I think I put it back in order, yeah. The deck is beautiful, the artwork is beautiful. Mine came with some, you know, messed up corners, but the artwork is really, really stunning. Having said all of that, it's not a deck I use. I even tried to pass it on to my daughter, who is very much into animal decks, and she really wasn't able to read with it either because it's just a little too pippish for her, which generally I like, but I don't know, just never really connected with this one. But it is beautiful, and I love the artwork, and I am a sucker for anything that has elephants and orcas in it because those are my two animals, even though I'm not real big into animal energy. There he is. Oh, look how pretty. Anyway, I don't like this card. That's just, I think the Three of Swords could have been depicted in a lot better way, but I will not It's nothing against the artwork because the artwork is stunning. Whereas this was the other one that we really liked because it's a harpy eagle. And oh, it's just stunning. Anyway, it's a gorgeous deck. My daughter and I, neither one really had any luck doing readings with it. But it's really pretty to look at. And, you know, I've had it up for trade a couple times and it's just never kind of worked out. So maybe it's just meant to be in my collection, and maybe her I won will eventually be able to make some use out of it. But for now, it's a pretty deck and we hang on to it. So that is the Anima Mundi Tarot. So up next we have one of my favorite little pocket decks, and I haven't made a real bag for it yet. I need to make a bag for this one. Here's the beautiful backs. This is the Tarot of the Trees. Did I forget to say that? I think I did. I love this deck. It is just, aw, it's so cute. This deck, whoops, has gone many, many places with me because it is definitely pocket-sized. And I love trees, so I love the images. The minors are very pippish, which is fabulous. And it's just such a cute little deck. And I've done like quite a few readings with this. It's gone camping with me. Like the kids tend to take this deck, and by kids I mean teenagers. But this is the deck that they always grab out of my collection and go, you know, do readings with. So it's definitely one that gets a lot of use. I have yet to edge it. I need to edge it. But yeah, it's so cute. It's so sweet. It really is the Waite-Smith system, but just with trees, which I love because there's no people. And it's just, you know, it's just one of those decks that's just really close to my heart now. So anyway, great little pocket deck, great little reader. So that is the Tarot of the Trees. So up next we have a deck that needs no introduction on my channel because this is the Llewellyn Tarot, and yes, I've trimmed it, edged it, we've seen it like 900 times on my channel, right? You know, as if you've watched any of my other videos, you probably know that this is my comfort deck. This deck and I have been on many, many adventures together. I absolutely love it. The artwork is fantastic. There is just something very comforting and very soothing about this deck. It just, yeah, like I said, it's my comfort deck. It is the one that I turn to when I'm just not feeling it with any other deck, or when I'm even just not feeling it with tarot. This is the deck that I kind of turn to when I'm just like, I don't really know that I feel like even messing with it. And then I pull this deck out and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I'm just, you know, just in a mood, but this deck just, I don't know, makes things all better. So that is my Llewellyn Tarot. Hey, up next we have the Greenwich Tarot, and I have yet to make a bag for this one. Here's the beautiful backs. This is a deck that I've had for quite a while, and I read with a lot when I first got it. And I really do, for reals, why are some of my cards upside down? Sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on with some of these decks that I don't use often get turned around. But anyway, I love this deck. Oh, doesn't that figure? Turn them all one way and then they're the other. Okay, I'm about to give up on the turning cards around. I do love this deck. It's definitely one of my favorites. But it's just, I don't know, it's a deck that I don't use very often, but I do really love it. And I did use it a ton when I got it, so maybe that's it. Maybe I overused it when I first got it. But it's basically, you know, a pagan Rider-Waite-Smith, which is totally cool because it makes it a really easy reader. And I love the imagery. I love the, look how beautiful. I love that Wheel of the Year. I love this standing stone too. You know, it's just, it's one of those that it's beautiful. It's, you know, it's always there. It does, I do have to say that it does kind of give a little bit of a nice overlay to some of the more challenging cards, which I don't know, I'm not really sure about, to be perfectly honest, but it might help if I get my fingers out of the way. So I'm just kind of a hot mess on this video. I apologize it's early in the morning. I don't know. No excuses for me, right? Anyway, rambling on. Need to get moving here. Anyway, it's a great deck. It's a great solid little reader. The artwork is really beautiful. So that is the Green Witch Tarot. Okay, so up next we have the Mother piece, and this is the mini deck. Cute little backs. So this is a deck that I haven't used at all, and you can see it'll still be in order. But it's a deck that I am really curious to learn about. So I just got the mini to start with, although I can tell you that if it's a deck that I'm gonna end up using, I'm probably gonna get the full-size version. But I thought to start out with, I would just do this mini deck just so that I could kind of get to know it. I've spent some time looking through it. I still have yet to read the book, but what I really love about this deck is the history of it, and that is really what draws me in more than even the artwork or, you know, the fact that it's round or anything like that. I'm just really fascinated by decks that have a long history to them and decks that continue to stay in the limelight despite, you know, years and years and years going by. So that is one of the reasons why I purchased this deck, was just to be able to get a hold of it, to be able to read about it and give it a look and give it a try. So we still have to do that. This deck and I still have to work together, but I'm really excited to work with it. So this is the Mother Piece Mini Tarot. Okay, I'm moving into oracles. We have the Voice of the Trees Oracle. Now this is a deck that I purchased mostly because I was interested in learning about poems, which I still am, I just haven't had time to do. And I liked that it had the keyword associations on it as well. Now I have not done any work with this deck yet, and I have not done any study on ohms, and I like that it has the ohm at the bottom. So I really couldn't speak to how it reads. I do think that the artwork is a little bit washed out. I wish it was just a little bit more vibrant, and I think that some of those details would pop more, because I really do think it's a really beautifully illustrated deck, but it's just kind of washed out, so you don't really get to see it. Probably should have just shown you every card because there's only a few cards in this deck, but I think the backs are really beautiful, and I really do like the artwork, but it is a little faded and muted for me, so I don't know. We'll see how it works out. I do think it's beautiful, and I'm hoping that this will kind of maybe help bridge the gap for me between working with cards and working with ohms. So that's kind of why I purchased it. That's my plan for it anyway. So that is the Voice of the Trees. Okay, up next we have one of my favorite oracles, and this is the Shamanic Medicine Oracle cards. It's a beautiful backs. I have edged it. This has that beautiful matte cardstock. I love the cardstock of this deck, and I love these images. This is a deck that I think I've spoken about before, but this deck is so beautiful. It's so clear. It's so no nonsense. Like, apparently I really like no nonsense tarot decks. It's a very easy yet powerful reader for me. I do not tend to use this as a standalone, as I don't tend to use most of my oracles as a standalone, but I tend to use it in conjunction with my tarot readings, and it just adds an additional layer, an additional message, and it's just beautiful. And it pairs beautifully with so many of my earthy decks. So many of the tarot decks that you've seen in this collection, this deck looks beautiful with. And it gives really great clear messages, which I really like, and it's supportive, but it's not affirming, if that makes sense. So anyway, it's one of my favorites. It's kind of a workhorse oracle. Up next we have one of my other favorite oracles, and that is the Shamanic Healing Oracle cards. It does have that awful shiffer glossy cardstock, and you know, I don't hold it against this deck because I love this deck. Not fond of the text on the back, and it's gold gilded. Production wise, this deck is not great, but the artwork and the messages more than make up for that. This is a deck that I was really drawn to when I first saw the images, and I was like, I'm not even sure why I was so drawn to it, but I just was. It was one of those that I'm like, I have to have that deck. I don't know what it is about it, but I just have to have it. And it is a deck that I have really enjoyed working with. I love the artwork. I love the messages. It has a good balance of light and shadow. And I really appreciate that about Oracle decks, because there's a difference between an Oracle deck and an affirmation deck. And when I want an affirmation deck, I'll pull an affirmation deck. But when I want an Oracle, I like it to have balance. So anyway, totally different topic, but yeah, it's a gorgeous deck. I love the messages. I love the artwork, and it pairs really well with a lot of cards as well. Has very primal imagery to it, which kind of just taps into that primal place, I think. That's one of the things that I really like. It like goes deep. It digs deep inside and digs down to that primal, instinctual place inside of you. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about it. So it's definitely one that I turn to quite often, and I use in a lot of different readings. So that is the Shamanic Healing Oracle cards. And last up, we have the Spirit of the Animals Oracle. Now this is a deck, again, this one is quite large. It is, I think, about the same size as the Ancestral Path. This is a deck, I haven't edged it or anything, that I really only purchased because I pulled for the spirit animals for my daughter and I. So hers is Wolf and Raven, so we use these as altar cards. And mine is Elephant and Orca. So that is totally why I bought this deck. Bought this whole deck for those 4 cards. The rest of the deck is beautiful, but I don't use this for readings. We use those 4 cards for altar cards because the artwork is just absolutely stunning. I'm sure this is a great reader, and if you're really familiar with animal energy, this is probably a fabulous one if that's something that you work with. It is really not something I work with besides my 2 animals. That tends to be it. And I think just for my personal preferences, there's too much text on these cards. If I was going to use this, I would probably crop all that text off because I just don't think it needs it. Like, look how beautiful. These cards are beautiful. The imagery speaks for itself. I love that it has the animal and a keyword, and I think that's great, but I think this just needs to go away. That can be in the book, and you can look it up if you want to. Otherwise, you know, I feel like all the text kind of takes away from the cards. I'm really not the best person to give any kind of opinion on this deck because I don't use it. I have never used it, never done a reading with it. I've looked through it because, like, oh, the images are beautiful. But I only bought it for these 4 cards for my daughter and I because we used them on our altar, which I had to pull them off to do this video, so they will be going right back where they were. But it is a gorgeous deck, and you know, for if you like to work with animal energy, or maybe you're just wanting to start with animal energy, this might be a good one. But it's just the images, they're so beautiful. I don't know if we'll ever use it as a straight up oracle, but we'll see. But for altar cards, these are just like, how beautiful are these? So it is the Spirit of the Animals Oracle. Oh, I am such a mess today. So I put all my decks away for my earthy decks, and then I realized that I totally forgot to include my Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards because this one was pulled out because I just did a review on this deck. So I'm not going to go into it in really great detail because I do have a full review up. This is definitely one of my favorite oracles. I love the system. The backs are beautiful. The cards are beautiful. I have edged mine. But really, this artwork is just, it's just so fantastic. And it's just a gorgeous deck. I really do think that this deck, one of my favorite cards, I really do think that this deck is as wonderful as it is and as popular as it is, and that's a credit to the artist, I think. I really think that it's Lily Moses's artwork that sells this deck. I mean, no offense to Kyle Gray, but I just think that that is what does it for this deck. It is, you combine this artwork that is just so beautifully illustrated with these, you know, great little keywords, and it's just, yeah, it's just fabulous. So I think that that Lily Moses did a fantastic job on this deck, and I totally give her props for creating one of the most beautiful oracle decks that I have in my collection. So I will quit gushing about it because I do have a full review up. So that is the last deck in my Earthy deck collection of my Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards. Thank you so much for checking out my collection of Earthy, Tarot, and Oracle decks. I would love to hear about the Earthy-inspired decks in your collection or your thoughts on the ones I have shown here, so feel free to leave a comment below. And if you'd like to check out the rest of my deck collection, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the little bell for notifications. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you will join me again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.